Honorable Senators, if you have nothing to offer, kindly just move out of the dashboard. It's pretty crowded. Senator Eddie Okech. Senator Sifuna.
Honorable Speaker, allow me to make brief comments on the two statements by the Senator for Nandi on the pending bills owed to Kenya Power by counties and the revenue streams for Kenya Power, alternative revenue streams. Honorable Speaker, I am sure you all remember there was a very embarrassing spectacle in Nairobi just a few days ago, where the county government of Nairobi got into a spat with the Kenya Power Company over unpaid bills. Honorable Speaker, it resulted in something of very petulant action that was taken by the governor or the county government of Nairobi to dump garbage outside the offices of Kenya Power and other premises of the power utility. I am happy that my governor has already apologized to the people of Kenya for that unfortunate incident. But, Honorable Speaker, there are very serious underlying issues, and I'm happy that this statement has been brought by the Senator for Nandi. Number one, Honorable Speaker, I understand that there has been a long drawn-out disagreement about how much Nairobi owes to the Kenya Power Company. And I am also aware that there have been joint auditing of those bills by both the utility and by the county government of Nairobi. And there is a joint communique that was signed on just how much this amount is. There was an initial claim of about 3 billion Kenya shillings, but after auditing jointly, they came to a figure of 1.8 billion Kenya shillings. Now, of importance, Honorable Speaker, is that out of that 1.8 that is claimed by the utility, the Kenya Power, 1.5 billion shillings is arising out of street lighting. Now, here's a conversation that I want this Senate to help us with, especially here in Nairobi. Honorable Speaker, although this street lighting is termed as a function of the county government, this is admittedly a national security function. And the Ministry of Energy themselves have agreed as much. I sat in a meeting with the CS for Energy, the Honorable Wandai, and he had told me that the ministry has acknowledged that this is something that the national government has to take up as a security function. And in fact, by the time of that meeting, which was about a month and a half ago, he told me that they had already written to EPRA so that this becomes a formal policy that county governments should not continue to pay street lighting bills. Honorable Speaker, the funny thing is that although Kenya Power acknowledges that the bulk of that bill is arising out of street lighting, when you have a dispute with them, they don't go and switch off the street lights, which is also a tacit admission on their part that they know that it is critical for Nairobi to continue to have those streets lit. If you look at the law that exists, Section 5 and Section 6 of the Urban Areas and Cities Act, it is recognized that Nairobi stands in a unique position as a seat of power, as a capital city of the country, and also as a diplomatic hub, Honorable Speaker. And that the national government, although certain functions are county functions, must step in from time to time to be able to support the workings of the county government. So, Honorable Speaker, we want to continue to urge the Ministry of Energy to follow through with that promise and make sure that because this is a national security function, they help counties to be able to settle these bills. Finally, Honorable Speaker, because you limited our time, there is a conversation about sources of revenue, on-source revenue for counties. Honorable Speaker, we have a spectre here in Nairobi where the county government used to host utilities, like they would do those utility lines on the ground. And then if you have your fiber optic cables or data cables you wanted to use, you would pay the county, and it was a very serious source of revenue. We have a situation where Kenya Power says they are not supposed to pay for way leaves in Nairobi or in other open spaces because the law says that you have to get the consent of a minister, which first of all is ridiculous, Honorable Speaker. You give a county the power to levy rates, and then you make those powers subject to the national government again. Of course, the CS for Energy will never allow Nairobi to levy rates for those way leaves. But the most critical thing is, Honorable Speaker, the Kenya Power Company then takes up business that was a source of revenue for the county government and tells the service providers who are doing data connections and the others that you can actually put your cables on our power lines, which is essentially robbing county governments of on-source revenue. So, Honorable Speaker, it is a situation that I am hoping, because I also happen to be a member of the Energy Committee, we will have a robust conversation about it. And lastly, Speaker, one of the things that is forgotten in the public debate, That bill, the Energy Act that restricts collection of rates on way leaves without the permission of the CS, is a 2019 bill. If you look at the 1.5 billion Kenya shillings that Kenya Power says is a debt owed by Nairobi, those debts precede that law. So, Honorable Speaker, how can you tell us that in 2017, for instance, we did not owe Nairobi money for way leaves? And a final appeal on behalf of the people of Nairobi. The national government institutions in Nairobi have refused to pay rates. Unfortunately, one of those institutions, Honorable Speaker, is this House. The Senate and the National Assembly, Parliament as an institution. All these buildings here in the Parliament Square and in the Government Square, they have refused to pay Nairobians rates. As we speak, it's over 100 billion Kenya shillings that we are owed as Nairobians for unpaid rates by national governments. If you gave us that money, Honorable Speaker, we would be able to do a light rail, the equivalent of the one that was done in Addis Ababa, so that all of you can come to work without having to sit in traffic. And I can assure you, we'll make a tunnel stop here so that we drop you at work, Honorable Speaker. You don't have to sit in traffic. So I am beseeching you and the entire Senate, please join Nairobi in asking the national government to pay us this money. I thank you, Honorable Speaker.
The Majority Leader.
Matters that have been raised this afternoon by colleague senators and have been directed to the committees. Allow me, Mr. Speaker, to perhaps very quickly comment on two of them. One is on this security issue, in security situation in Laikipia. And Mr. Speaker, I continue to empathize with Kenyans who, out of challenges of security, lose their property. But because it's not in the traditional categorization of what property is, it's not a building or a car, or a parcel of land in a prime location in this city, people don't treat it with the seriousness that it deserves. Many times when you see senators bring statements, Senator for Turkana, Senator for Laikipia is bringing, that a family has been robbed of their cattle, Mr. Speaker, it is most of the time their only source of livelihood. And therefore it ought to be treated with the same seriousness as you would if today you're told that somebody had walked into someone's house or an apartment here in Nairobi and evicted them, Mr. Speaker. Therefore, I want to appreciate that Senator Kinyo continues to speak on behalf of the people of Olmoran Ward in Laikipia County. And this is not by the usual ignorant gang who speak out of abundance of ignorance on issues that they know completely nothing about.
Don't comment on the statement. Don't comment on the statement by that has been read out by Senator Newton. He was holding brief for Senator Morango,
yes,
and he wrongly read a statement meant for Senator Mandago. So that statement remains deferred. It will be read by Senator Mandago when he's in the House. So at that appropriate time, you will make your comments on that particular statement.
Okay, Mr. Speaker, I'm properly guided. I yield the floor then to other senators.
Thank you. Senator Ledama.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I rise to make some comments and provide some useful information to two statements. One statement is a statement read by Senator Essi Okunyuri. Mr. Speaker, the clashes in the border of Narok and Kisii is historical. The problem starts from the Kisii border all the way to Kilgoris town. This gentleman disappeared with the money. So the land remained as being owned by the Maasai community. There is also a case in court where the Luo community of Awendo took the matter to court because of a place called Olondare. And in this area, this is a place where the late President Daniel Arap Moi used to cultivate a lot of land there. It's where there is plenty of good land that the Maasai use. The gentleman who went to court from Awendo lost that case from Nairobi, and now that case has been transferred to Kisumu. So this is an issue that these three communities must sit down and agree on, because the land belongs to the Maasai community. The Kisii community wanted to buy land, and then the community from the Luo community on the Awendo side also want to be able to take this part called Olondari. This is a challenge, Mr. Speaker. This is an issue that we have to ask ourselves whether we need to be changing laws when it comes to the issue of acquisition of land. It is a big crisis. So this thing where people are pretending that they are going in because they are following their cows which are stolen, and then they cause people to be killed. I know this weekend 2 people from my county of Narok were killed. They were killed by people who came from the neighboring counties. So this is a land crisis. This is an issue where people want to take land by force. Now, if there is pressure for one community in this country to be able to get land, that is not our problem. That is a problem of the national government. We have so much land in this country which is not occupied by anybody. Those people can be able to migrate and move to that part. But forcing and moving people in this boundary called Olondari, and also allowing land brokers to be able to bring conflict between 3 communities should not be tolerated, Mr. Speaker. So when the committee is investigating, let us not go to petty things like stealing a cow. Let us look at the problem. What is causing the Kisii community to move to Narok County to be able to claim land which they were conned by this gentleman called Oringo? You know, and what is causing the community in Awendo? You know, in fact, the problem is this, and I want to tell my sister, Esther. There's a community called the Pusunya. The Pusunya community are cousins of the Kuria community and the Kisii community. This Pusunya community is the one which are trying to say we need this land. They are the ones who donated money. They are the ones who participated in this fundraiser by this fellow called Oringo. So the problem is not the Maasai. The problem is not the Kisii. The problem are the brokers who got the money and disappeared with the money. So this issue of land is something that we must resolve for boundary disputes. Secondly, Mr. Speaker, on that issue, I think it's about time that we change the law. Because even the issue raised by Senator Cherargei on the issue of electricity, it has to go to do with the law. Section 33 of the Energy Act of 2019 bars public entities from charging Kenya Power, where it lives, for its network. The law further says that the entity can only demand the fees with approval from the Cabinet Secretary of Energy. Now, Senator Sifuna said, how do you expect the Cabinet Secretary of Energy to say, now Kenya Power, you can actually, no, Nairobi County, you can charge Kenya Power. Yet, Kenya Power is one of its state department. So the issue here we need to do is to change the law. And the law that I would propose that we change are 2 laws. One, the law that has to do with land on boundaries. That instead of selling land in the boundaries of counties, let us propose that the communities along those boundaries can lease this land out to people so that that land remain historically to be owned by the community which is domiciled in that area. Number 2, we need to change Section 33 of the Energy Act. If, to be honest, Nairobi County is owed billions by Kenya Power. Kenya Power wants to be paid for the electricity of streetlights, which to me I believe is a security issue. And I think the national government has got now to decide. The Ministry of Interior is given a lot of money. A lot of money. The executive is given a lot of money. I don't think the executive will feel the pinch if they decide that we will no longer drink tea, we will pay for security lights. Or we will never entertain people, we'll just do what? We'll pay for street lighting. I'm aware, Mr. Speaker, that there is a program, which is a PPP program, that is budgeted to spend about 10 billion Kenya shillings to be able to deal with this issue of streetlights. Because honestly, for every county, and it's not only Nairobi, my county of Narok, my own village of Orakule, so every so often you find that the streetlights are off. And it's an insecurity issue. When you ask the community there, they say, we have asked Kenya Power to restore this security light. They said the bill has not been paid by the county government. So who is going to pay? In fact, one young boy from Orakule asked me, so, Senator, who is going to pay for this? We are afraid of even walking at night. We walk from our technical college called Masai Technical College, a TVET institution, all the way to the center at night after prep, because there's not enough accommodation and there are no street lights. So really, my colleagues, I want to beseech you that instead of just looking at the top layer, let's dig inside to find out what the problems are. Let us take the law, let us change the laws so that we can ensure that the time that God will give us to live on earth, we can live peacefully. Secondly, we can also be able to have the services which other countries have for free. If you go to Dubai, I don't think there's a time that the local authority or the power company in Dubai will decide to shut off power. Or the local authority will decide to go and dump garbage outside the offices of another department. So these are things that requires us to be disciplined, mature enough to sit down and have a conversation. So I look forward for the time that we'll engage both Nairobi County and Kenya Power so that we can have a lasting solution to these problems. Otherwise, we will continue going around in circle. And when the Lands Committee or the National Security Committee is looking at this statement brought by Senator Kinyuri, let us dig deeper to be able to understand historical challenges. The same, even in Laikipia. You know, thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Senator Abbas.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. I want to contribute on the Honorable Chute's statement. Honorable Speaker, as you're aware, 70% of these countries are in the same arid. And mainly, those areas depend on boreholes. There are no running waters, there are no rivers, most of it. There are only some seasonal rivers that is only used only for 3 months. So much money has been spent by the counties and national government to at least do a hydrological survey to be able to access some subsurface water. However, of late, there's so many contractors that pretend to be hydrologists. There are many of them who don't even have the capacity that have been given the contract. And what they do is actually they apply for the contract and don't meet the specifications. These people, they just dig the holes within not even the specified depth. What happened is that the boreholes in those places go up to 600 meters, 200 meters, at different levels. But however, because of wanting to make profit, they do shoddy jobs. Honorable Speaker, and as a result of that, many boreholes have been drilled and they found that it's dry. There was no enough hydrological survey that was done. There was no technical support, knowledge. These guys don't have even knowledge to drill boreholes. They don't have even the equipment, because some of the equipment didn't even make that specification where boreholes can be drilled up to 400, 500 meters. And as a result, most of the boreholes that have been started have been abandoned. And actually today, as we talk, there's a severe drought in those areas. And most of the boreholes are dry, the rivers have dried, and a lot of money has been spent. And therefore, I will request the committee to take serious on this matter and visit the specific areas that the senator has asked to be found that they find out what happened. Because I'm sure the money has already been paid, the boreholes have been drilled, but there's no water and they look dry. And therefore, I will request the committee to be visiting those areas so at least you can be able to stop this business of giving contract to wrong people who have no even capacity to drill boreholes or do any other specifications. With those feedback, I beg to support.
Senator Beatrice Akinyi.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, I rise to support this, the statement by the Nandi Senator over unsettled electricity bills owed to KPLC by the county governments. Honorable Speaker, I want to insist that county governments must pay their electricity bills because, Honorable Speaker, we cannot say that other Kenyans should pay their bills and governments that draw budgets and have allocation for the same and go ahead not to pay, we can say should not pay their bills. Honorable Speaker, even if the bills have been accumulated for long, all we may suggest is that through the intergovernmental forums, the CS for energy could constitute a sitting with the CS Treasury along with the Council of Governors, and they find an amicable way of settling the bills. Honorable Speaker, the counties have disbursements every month. They could settle it in a way in which the bills for KPLC are ring-fenced and they could be paid in bits, if not at all once. Honorable Speaker, we know county governments have allocations. Why then would they not be encouraged to pay their bills? The issue of street lights is just a small percentage of these bills, and we all know that the street lights are also subsidized bills. So I want to support, because county governments are not only owing these bills on street lights, they are not paying bills on hospital bills and on the buildings that they use and a number of services. Honorable Speaker, all Kenyans pay bills, and so for me it is an excuse that we could encourage county governments not to pay bills. Secondly, Honorable Speaker, I want to make a comment on the statement by Senator Catherine Muma over the proposal by SHA to increase school fees in public secondary schools. Honorable Speaker, we know Kenyans are struggling. I would not support the fact that school fees should be increased, especially for day secondary schools. We are encouraging education for all, and all includes, Honorable Speaker, students and pupils that do not come from advantaged families. And so if fees is increased, Honorable Speaker, we might only go to see a dropout rate that is going up. Honorable Speaker, in some of the schools, we have often seen stories where students even fall out of school because of inability to pay 5,000 shillings. So if the school fees would be paid, it would be increased, Honorable Speaker, I think that would affect learning of students. Honorable Speaker, the statement has given two reasons why the SHA are proposing that school fees should be increased. One of them is the delay on disbursement and then the non-review of capitation to schools. Honorable Speaker, I want to suggest that it is the two reasons that need to be looked into. If there's a delay in disbursement, all we need to ensure is that Treasury disburses the funds to the schools at the right time and not to punish our people who are struggling. Honorable Speaker, I want to support these statements and to say that schools, that there should be no increase in this current school fees that is being paid in the public schools. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Senator Alexander Mundige Munye.
Asante Bwana Spika, naunga mkono statement ya Senator Kenywa kuhusu mambo ya ulinzi na mambo ya wizi wa ng'ombe na mbuzi na pia uvunjanji wa mambo ya duka za biashara. Bwana Spika, sio mambo ya Laikipia peke yake, ni kaunti nyingi kama huko Northeastern na pia West Pokot na Turkana. Hiyo shinda imekuwa nyingi katika nchi yetu ya Kenya, na tuko county 47 na zile county haina mambo ya wizi na ng'ombe na mbuzi. Mambo ya kilimo ama mambo ile ingine wakipatiwa hela huwa sinafanya kazi mzuri. Wakati huu Bwana Spika, ningeunga mkono wale kamati itaenda kuangalia mambo ya wizi wa ng'ombe na zile vitu zingine, waweze kuangalia ndio zile pesa maseneta wanapatia county government siwe sikifanya kazi kulingana na njia ile inafaa. Bwana Spika, kwa sababu hiyo imeleta shinda katika kona zote. Unakuta hata shule nyingi asiwezi enda, watoto wengi hawezi enda shule vizuri juu ya wizi wa ng'ombe na pia mambo ya masamba. Kwa hiyo Bwana Spika, naunga mkono hiyo statement ya Mr. Kenywa. Bwana Spika, pia naunga mkono statement ya Senator Serengei wa Nandi. Kampuni inaitwa Kenya Power, Mara mingi tumekuwa tukilalamika mambo ya Kenya Power, Bwana Spika, na sisi wanyonge na wale wengine, ikifika mwisho wa mwezi unakuta unalipa stima, na zile kampuni kubwa asilipi stima. Pia Bwana Spika, kaunti zote 47 huwa inaitaka mambo ya security iwekewe stima na Kenya Power, lakini kulipa imekuwa ni shinda. Kwa hiyo Bwana Spika, ningesema kufanya upelelezi vizuri, kwa nini ile kitendo ilifanyika ya Nairobi, ya kaunti ya Nairobi, na ndio ambaye tunajua Nairobi City ndio mzazi wetu, alifanya kitendo angeweza kuonekana katika dunia mzima. Unakuta juu ya mambo ya kuwa mtu ameenda kudai bei ya pesa yake, alafu sasa unaenda kwa nyumba yake, unaenda unamfungia nyumba, na hakuna sheria kama hizo. Bwana Spika, ni kitendo ambaye kilikuwa ya aibu sana, kwa sababu Bwana Spika, tunajua kumekuwa na shinda hapa na pale, kaunti nyingi asilipi deni.
Senator Alexander Mundigi, Senator Paris is on a point of order. What is your point of order, Senator Tobiko?
Mr. Speaker, Senator Mundigi has said, he has used the term sisi wanyonge. If we say in this house sisi wanyonge, those Kenyans who are really, down and feeling like ni wanyonge, they will think we are playing with their psyche.
Senator Mundigi.
Bwana Spika, Bwana Spika,
Senator Mundigi, Senator Tobiko, I think the Honorable Senator used that term to just prove his humility in terms of identifying himself with the people on the ground. I don't think he meant to rub the people the wrong way. So I think he's within the parliamentary practices to use that word. Proceed and conclude, Senator Mundigi.
Ningesema kusema ukweli, sisi tumekuja hapa kutetea wanyonge. Kwa hiyo nikiwa nimekuja hapa kutetea mnyonge, hata sisi ni wanyonge, kwa sababu kaunti zote tunapatia pesa, hiyo ni matajiri na walipi Kenya Power pesa zao. Kwa sababu Bwana Spika, wakati ile kitendo ilifanyika pale, kuna watu wako pale juu ya mazingira, kuna magari ilikuwa napitia pale. Pia kungetokea mambo ya watu wa vita, anguna pahali wangepitia. Kwa hivyo tuko hapa tukitetea wanyonge, na wanyonge ndio wanilete hapa ndio watetee. Kwa hivyo sikuwa nimekosa Bwana Spika. Ile nataka niseme, kaunti ya Nairobi ambaye seneta wake ni katibu mkuu wa Azimio, alikuwa amesimama hapa akiongea mambo kama hiyo. Ningetaka isipokuwa ni vile ametoka, angekuwa hapa aone vile kaunti yake inafanya makosa, na pia kaunti zile zingine sikifanya kama hivyo, mambo ya ulinzi, mambo mingi, mambo ya mazingira itakuwa na sine. Kwa hivyo Bwana Spika, naunga mkono kutengenezwa kamati kuonekane kwa nini kaunti ya Nairobi ifanya kitendo kama hiyo. Na pia nimesikia akisema Senate iko na pesa ya kaunti, iende ikawa anja itisha, lakini wale watu waliitisha pesa ya Kenya Power, halafu sasa unaenda unafunga jia ya security mambo ile ingine. Kwa hiyo Bwana Spika, mkura deni ni kulipa. Ningeomba deni ya Kenya Power ilipwe na kaunti zote, na pia sio kaunti peke yao, hata kuna ministry nyingi sana hailipi deni. Kwa hiyo Bwana Spika, naunga mkono kuweza kufuatiliwa kuonekane vile wale watu wengine wataweza kuwa wakilipa pesa ya stima. Ni mimi Senator wa Embu County, Daktari Mundigi.
Senator Professor Gender.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I wish to contribute to the statement read this afternoon by the Senator Catherine Muma on the question, Mr. Speaker, of the declaration by the Kenya Secondary School Heads Association, SHA, to increase public secondary school fees. Mr. Speaker, I proceed on a different note because I have information, Mr. Speaker, that at the moment what is outstanding is the payment of Kenya shillings 28 billion out of which Kenya shillings 14 billion has already been released to the JSS level. And Mr. Speaker, this is in view of the fact that the government, through the CS Finance, John Buddy, pays a capitation of Kenya shillings 1,420 per learner for lower school, that is pre-primary education, which is covered, Mr. Speaker, by sections 14 to 20 of the Basic Education Act number 14 of 2013, and the reduction of the initial sum of Kenya shillings 22,244 paid to secondary school students now stands at Kenya shillings 15,042. The government, Mr. Speaker, sir, has now released 14 billion, and there's a balance. The term is not over, Mr. Speaker, it is only half term, and therefore, the precipitate action, Mr. Speaker, taken by the Kenya Secondary School Heads Association is uncalled for. It is uncalled for, Mr. Speaker, because in the day schools, parents pay up to Kenya shillings 12,000 per year after the capitation is received. And parents, Mr. Speaker, sir, cannot be put under the pressure of adding any further sums because the CS Finance and government have indicated that the payment shall be made, Mr. Speaker. This statement, however, is important, Mr. Speaker, because it is important for government to ensure that payments are made within time. And that is because, Mr. Speaker, there has been a delay, and some parents are therefore claiming that money should be refunded where they paid more money, my Lord. Mr. Speaker, sorry. Mr. Speaker, this statement is also apt because it concerns the ordinary parent. And this is not a time, Mr. Speaker, that parents should be asked to dig into their pockets to add more money. The Basic Education Act, Cap 211 of the laws of Kenya, contemplates a level of education that parents can afford. It contemplates contribution both on the part of the national government and of parents from their pockets. And I support this statement, Mr. Speaker, to the extent that it ensures that responsibility by the Ministry of Education is carried at the levels that are set out. Mr. Speaker, this morning I had occasion to visit the CS Education, Mr. Julius Ongamba, Senior Counsel, who is my classmate, you know, classmates in cabinet. And Mr. Speaker, these are some of the issues that I raised. And the CS was emphatic that there shall be timely release of capitation funds as contemplated by the guidelines. He also indicated, Mr. Speaker, that he has worked on the model of university funding and that with the assistance of his technical staff, he has been able to wade through all the issues that touch on the education sector. And we hope that the CS will continue to do the good work that he's doing. Lastly, Mr. Speaker, on cattle rustling, the late Senator Cheptumo, we buried late Senator Cheptumo on Saturday. He had worked on a bill on cattle rustling. As the Vice Chair of the Committee on Defense and Foreign Relations, we shall ensure that we prioritize that bill to see that it sees the light of day so that cattle rustling can be a thing of the past in this country. Cattle rustling, Mr. Speaker, as we can see, is rampant in certain counties, including Pokot, including Laikipia, where we can see the statement by Senator Kinyo emerging. But, Mr. Speaker, even in some counties like my county, in Nyakach, which is the border sub-county with the Senator Majority Leader's sub-county of Kericho, where we've had serious issues of cattle rustling reported, and where we have put a framework where leaders cooperate so that we can deal with this issue of cattle rustling and bring it to an end. We had talked about, Mr. Speaker, in the bill by the late Senator Cheptumo, a framework where we will ensure that livestock is labeled, that livestock is specific to a county to enable any person trace the origin of livestock, so that you cannot steal livestock from Kericho County and transport it to Kisumu County or to Kakamega County. And that way, Mr. Speaker, sir, we will bring an end to the perennial problem of cattle rustling in this country. I support, Mr. Speaker.
Honorable Senators, we will come back to those statements, but allow me to make the following communication. I would like to acknowledge the presence in the public gallery this afternoon, visiting students from teachers from Gathungu Comprehensive School and Romuru Township Comprehensive School, Nyeri County. The delegation comprises of 45 students and 5 teachers who are undertaking a study tour to the Senate. Honorable Senators, on behalf of the Senate and on my own behalf, I extend a warm welcome to the delegation and wish them all the best during their visit. Also, I would like to acknowledge the presence in the Speaker's Gallery this afternoon, a visiting delegation from Mamangina University College, Kiambu County. The delegation comprises of 15 student leaders and 1 lecturer who are undertaking a study tour of the Senate. Now, Honorable Senators, on behalf of the Senate and on my own behalf, I extend a warm welcome to the delegation and wish them all the best during their visit. I will allow the Senator for Nyeri County under 1 minute to extend a word of welcome to the delegation from his county, and thereafter I will call upon the Majority Leader to likewise extend a word of welcome to the students leaders from Mamangina University College, in that order.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker, sir, for granting me this opportunity to welcome pupils from my county. Indeed, Mr. Speaker, sir, rural schools do not have the advantage that the urban setup have. It is indeed such a moment that at times shape the destiny of small children in their learning process. I would therefore want to take this opportunity to welcome both Narumoro Township Comprehensive School and Kiagodho Comprehensive School in Udhaya, from Udhaya Sub-County to the Senate. I would want to tell them that is indeed in their hands, and every dream they have is varied, that some of us started in such schools and today we ended up here. Therefore, Mr. Speaker, sir, to be under 1 minute as directed, I would want to take this opportunity to welcome the students and the teachers, and I want to wish them well in their studies. I would want them to urge them to work very hard in school, to be obedient, and to be quite faithful in praying, that so that one day they can come and sit here, because this house belongs to those who believe that they have an obligation to take leadership in this country. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I join you on behalf of my colleagues to welcome the comrades from Mamangina University College. Mr. Speaker, I hope the students have had occasion to follow what's happened in the House this far. Today is one of those slow days if what they know about Parliament is to be considered. There hasn't been any significant drama or debate, but not to say that that's assured for the rest of the day. But what senators are actually doing is that they are reacting to statements that have been raised by their colleagues on various topical issues. And thereafter, those statements will be shared with various committees to give a response to the specific member on those issues. And that's what we've been doing the last few hours. Occasionally, we do that when there is no heavy agenda ahead of us, not to say that it's not important business. I hope these students, Mr. Speaker, will get to learn a thing or two about their country, how the legislature works, Mr. Speaker, and they should take comfort and encouragement from the fact that many of the leaders that serve in this House began their journey, including yours truly, into leadership during their days as university student leaders. And therefore, I'm happy for the endeavor and the pursuit that they are having in the things that they seek, Mr. Speaker, to learn and understand about this House. I hope by the end of their tour of duty, they will get to full comprehension. I want to challenge them to participate more actively in the affairs of the country, as they have been doing it, both online, offline, in their university colleges, and wherever they can to make this country a better place. I thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Senator Mudama, Kavindu.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for this opportunity. I want to comment on Senator Muma's statement. Mr. Speaker, I don't agree with this statement because just as the teachers, SHA, are having difficulties in running their schools, the parents are also having a lot of difficulties because the standard of living in Kenya has gone very high, and standard of living is high for everyone. So if we increase school fees for secondary schools, what are we doing to these parents, and where are they going to get money? What should have been done, or what Senator Muma should have done, Mr. Speaker, is to bring a statement to request for capitation to be transferred to schools in time, so that the teachers can continue properly with their work without any struggles, but not to add on burden to the parents. So, Mr. Speaker, for this one, I don't support. On Cherenkai's statement about electricity of Kenya Power, Mr. Speaker, it is true, all counties must be compelled to pay for their bills. But, Mr. Speaker, we've also seen Kenya Power increasing their rates in a way that nobody even understands, even for the local mwananchi, that their rates are so high that some people are living now without electricity, and many of the people have turned to solar because they can no longer afford electricity because of the rates that they give. So it should also be checked, even as we tell the counties to pay, the bills should be checked if they are the proper bills that the counties should pay. And I say they should come together and agree on mode of payments, because even as I talk like this, even in Machakos, there are streets without light because it has not been paid. Electricity has not been paid. And so it runs all over the country, not only in your area, Cherenkai. So counties and Kenya Power should sit and agree on how they will pay the bills. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Senator Fernandi.
Mr. Speaker, I rise to support statement by Senator Chute of Mandera. Mr. Speaker, with the ongoing drought situation in the country, it's very sad that 60 years down the line, we are still discussing non-access to clean and safe water as a country. And there are many millions that have been allocated. Mr. Speaker, there is an agency called National Drought Management Authority. You know, they should be proactive, even the agencies, waterworks that we have. Because if the boreholes are dry or non-functional, you can imagine the Kenyans that they are suffering, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, you can see, even in Garissa, it is less than 1 kilometer, the water is passing there. There is no water in Garissa. And this is the holy month of Ramadan, Mr. Speaker. And therefore, it's very unfortunate that our Muslim brothers and sisters are suffering during this. You go, I saw in Takaba. Takaba, they have a pay bill to fundraise for buying water in Takaba, Mr. Speaker. So, and this is the holy month of Ramadan that our people should be doing the month without lack of water, Mr. Speaker. I saw even the other day we were in Mandera, courtesy of my brother, party leader, Senator Ali Roba, and I was disappointed again that Mandera residents were demonstrating, Mr. Speaker, because of lack of water. Why? Because there are 3 generators, there are non-functional generators, there is no electricity in this holy month of Ramadan, Mr. Speaker. I want to call out the Kenya Power and Lighting Company for this ineptitude, incompetence, and moribunds in service provision. It is not a favor, it is not a privilege that they are doing to Kenyans, Mr. Speaker. I don't support what Sakaja did by dumping cabbage in the KPLC Steamer Plaza. But, Mr. Speaker, if Kenya Power and Lighting Company cannot rise up to the occasion, we will not blame the decisions or the actions that Kenyans take, Mr. Speaker. We were there, and I know maybe also when the majority leader was in Mandera, he was also told of the lack of electricity. And I want to propose to Kenya Power and Lighting, and majority leader, you can tell the energy expert minister, Opio and I, that they can allow the importation of electricity from Ethiopia because it is cheaper and affordable to the people of Mandera and northern Kenya. If Kenya Power and Lighting Company, Mr. Mr. Speaker, Mr. Speaker.
Senator, Majority Leader.
You know, Senator.
Senator Fernandi, would you wish to be informed?
Nowadays he looks wise. I cannot.
Proceed.
As his senior, he has no option, Mr. Speaker. He has to listen when I speak. Mr. Speaker, I wanted to inform Senator Cherargei that Kenya imports significant power from Ethiopia. So what he's asking for is happening already. The only challenge that we have is that to do transmission lines from, I think, the substation closest to Mandera town is quite a significant investment. And that is why over the years that hasn't been done. But during the last visit, and Senator Roba is here, of the President, I think last month, it was agreed that actually instead of having to wait for power from the closest substation, which is I think, I don't know how many hundreds of kilometers away, that the residents be connected to power next door from Ethiopia, and we pay for it alongside the rest of the power that we import. So Senator Cherargei's decision or proposal is already being implemented, albeit with much delay. It needs to be expedited, especially during this holy month of Ramadan. I thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Senator Fernandi, you may proceed. Would you, just information? Then I'll give you an opportunity. Proceed, Senator Fernandi, to conclude.
Thank you, Mr.
Remarks.
Speaker. What Senator Majority Leader is informing, I agree it is happening on the paper, but it is only yesterday that Mandera residents were demonstrating. Because Kenya Power has not added an extra transformer, the generator. They were supposed to add them so that, in fact, we argued that as the holy month begins, the Kenya Power out of agency should have added a new generator, but they have not done so. And when we went there, Mr. Speaker, I'm speaking from the point of information that they are yet to do anything, the Kenya Power and Lighting, and I want to encourage, now that Majority Leader can engage, direct the Minister of Energy, should just sit with the Minister of Energy and find out what is the problem that the Mandera people do not have electricity. And I think, let us connect. I remember Garissa had similar challenges, Mr. Speaker. Let us connect each and every, and I like what the motto of the President, uniting the entire country, Mr. Speaker. Let every Kenyan access the national grid of Kenya Power, so that we are not, when you are in Mandera, you find it sad that Nandi is connected to national grid of power, but the people of Mandera, yet they pay the similar taxes. But I went from the floor of the House and asked the party leader, the area senator, to ask his residents to calm down. He is a co-principal of Kenya Kwanza, just like you. They can sit with the president and discuss at the highest level. They don't need to demonstrate. Yet the president has decided to contract the road from Mandera to Isiolo, the 750 kilometers. Mr. Speaker, also finally, on the issue of green energy, I want to call upon the Ministry of Energy. Let us zero rate the issue of solar equipment, solar panels. Mr. Speaker, you remember in the last session, VAT was being included on the importation of panels, solar panels and also other. If we want to encourage, and the President has led us in 10 billion, the issue of climate change, green energy, we must zero rate the issue of solar accessories and solar panels so that Kenyans who cannot access electricity, Mr. Speaker, in fact, your area, like Kilifi and northern Kenya, we should be using solar energy because apparently there is a lot of sun in those areas, Mr. Speaker, and even the wind at the moment. Mr. Speaker, with those, and even look at the Garissa, Mr. Speaker, there is no water. And yet the river is just passing across the town, Mr. Speaker. We need to challenge, let's call governors also, as we call upon the Ministry of Energy to provide electricity. Governors, and I know you did a good job while in Kilifi, governors must be held accountable, Mr. Speaker. I was sad today to see the governor of Wajir, who is the chair of Council of Governors, using 7.3 million to repair a generator, Mr. Speaker. If counties do not do things in line with the law, it is very unfortunate. And I don't know whether Governor Baraza has awakened up from slumber, but Bonnie will tell us in some other day in future. Mr. Speaker, with those many remarks, he should go and become governor. So with those many remarks, Mr. Speaker, I beg to support.
Senator Ali Roba.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise to support, and as I support, Mr. Speaker,
I would like to weigh in on the statement that has been shared by the majority leader and my brother, Senator Cherargei. I must say I was honored to have the company of Senator Cherargei in Mandera. And Mr. Speaker, this problem that is being discussed has been ongoing for the last 3 years. And the government has been making promises after promises. It's very sad. When the president visited Mandera, 2 generators were brought to back up. And unfortunately, the 3 on the ground are not working. The 2 that were brought, 1 is not working. While the intent of the president is noble and has made commitment for this solution to be realized by Mandera people, but the situation has appeared to be extremely deliberate by Kenya Power, as if the people of northern Kenya are not equals in this country. Because as we discuss the challenges of power in Mandera, and it was there when I was a governor, and we were discussing, and unfortunately it's not a devolved function. It cannot be billed to county government because the provision of electricity is not liberalized. It is monopolistic business run by the electricity company in Kenya, Kenya Power. And the situation is going from bad to worse. What is very embarrassing in present day Kenya, Mr. Speaker, and it's very, very disheartening to even refer to, a country that, a region, a town that shares, cross-border line with us, which is literally Bulahawa, with unstable government, a government that is struggling to come to stabilize itself, and the farthest corner from the center of Mogadishu, Bulahawa, has several private vendors, and they have reliable electricity in Bulahawa, such that when Mandera is in the dark and fridges are not working and people are fasting, people of Mandera cross to the border to go and buy ice and buy cold drinks from the other side. It's very, very painful that when you look at Bulahawa belonging to a country that was unstable for 30 years, the resemblance of government is starting to exist right now. That town that is across the border less than 100 meters from our border is able to have reliable power supply. And the country Kenya, middle income status country, is struggling to provide services of provision of electricity to the people of this country. And we've talked about this, repeatedly. The leadership are at pain to the level that the leadership of Mandera County are at loggerheads with each other, one blaming the other for not doing this and that, and with the belief that somebody is sabotaging somewhere, yet the responsibility of provision of electricity lies squarely with Kenya Power. One of the 47 counties in this country is without power, and perennially, every year we are discussing this. It's about time for our president, His Excellency President William Samoei Ruto, to take this issue, take the bull by the horn. The noble intent of connecting us from across the border, which is about 78 kilometers from Ethiopia, has been in discussion. But realization of the same is not happening. The problem is persistently there. The people are at pains. Yesterday, there were demonstrations in town. We've tried to suppress it for years. To the extent right now it has become impossible. It is reaching explosive levels within the community where leaders will not have a choice, but because we've kept on telling them, do not demonstrate, we might end up joining them in the demonstration for purpose of realizing, electricity, sustainable electricity supply for the people of Mandera town. Mr. Speaker, sir, it is very agonizing, and I cannot really overemphasize. Last time, we managed to calm the population of that town by telling them the president is coming, solution is on its way, and the generators have been promised. We've met the PS, we've met the CS, and this solution will be resolved and they do not demonstrate. And we promise, if that does not happen, the leadership of that county, including the governor, will join in the demonstration to demonstrate the pain that the public are feeling in that county. I beg to support. Thank you.
Next order.
Order number 8, The County Government Laws Amendment Bill, Senate Bills number 52 of 2024, first reading. A bill for an Act of Parliament to amend the County Governments Act to provide for specific functions for the Office of the Deputy Governor, the Intergovernmental Relations Act, and for connected purposes.
Next order.
Order number 9, motion. Report of the Standing Committee on Trade, Industrialization and Tourism on a petition to the Senate regarding alleged fraudulent dealings at Diego PLC, East African Breweries Limited, Kenya Breweries, and UDV Kenya Limited. Resumption of debate on question to be put.
Now, Honorable Senators, this motion had been debated. Where we are now is for the question to be put. Clerk, can you confirm that we have the requisite quorum for purposes of putting the question? Now, Honorable Senators, I'll proceed to put the question that the Senate adopts the report of the Standing Committee on Trade, Industrialization and Tourism on a petition to the Senate regarding alleged fraudulent dealings at Diageo PLC, East African Breweries Limited, Kenya Breweries, and UDV Kenya Limited, laid on the table of the Senate on Thursday, 5th December 2024. Will as many as of that opinion say aye? Aye. Will as many as of the contrary opinion say nay? The ayes have it. Take your seat, Honorable Senator, as we move to the next. Next order, Clerk.
Order number 10, motion. Report of the Standing Committee on Trade, Industrialization and Tourism on a petition to the Senate on the need for the introduction of the Hospitality Professionals Bill. Resumption of debate on question to be put.
Honorable Senators, I'll proceed to put the question that the Senate adopts the report of the Standing Committee on Trade, Industrialization and Tourism on a petition to the Senate on the need for the introduction of the Hospitality Professionals Bill, laid on the table of the Senate on Thursday, 5th of December 2024. Will as many as of that opinion say aye? Aye. Will as many as are of a contrary opinion say nay? The ayes have it. Next order. Next order.
Order number 11, the Public Fundraising Appeals Bill, Senate Bills number 36 of 2024, resumption of debate on division.
We'll defer that particular order. We do not have the requisite delegates to carry out a division. Next order.
Order number 12, the Environmental Laws Amendment Bill, Senate Bills number 23 of 2024, resumption of debate on a division.
Similarly, we will defer the particular order for the same reasons. Next order.
Order number 13, the County Civic Education Bill, Senate Bills number 4 of 2024, resumption of debate on a division.
For the same reasons, we will defer that order. Next order.
Order number 14, report of the Mediation Committee on the Conflict of Interest Bill, National Assembly Bills number 12 of 2023, resumption of debate on a division.
So for the same reasons, we are going to defer order number 14. Next order, Clerk.
Order number 15, motion. Report of the Standing Committee on Agriculture, Livestock and Fisheries on a petition to the Senate regarding the catastrophic maize diseases that farmers in Bomet County have endured for the last 12 years.
The Chairperson, Standing Committee on Agriculture, Livestock and Fisheries.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir. Mr. Speaker, sir, I beg to move that the Senate adopts a report of the Standing Committee on Agriculture, Livestock and Fisheries on a petition to the Senate regarding the catastrophic maize disease that farmers in Bomet County have endured for the last 12 years, laid on the table of the Senate on Thursday, 5th December 2024. Honorable Speaker, this is a matter that affected many farmers in the North Rift. Honorable Speaker, this matter affected over 90% of maize farmers in Kericho, Honorable Speaker, and their attempt to seek redress from the county government, from service providers like Apollo, fell on deaf ears, Honorable Speaker. The petitioners acknowledged that there was no effective intervention and measures from national government and county governments to ensure and get alternative crop varieties, and that affected the production of maize in that particular area. Honorable Speaker, despite the efforts to engage the authorities on the pressing issues, the petitioners felt the concerns were not satisfactorily addressed and they had no alternative but to move to this House. Honorable Speaker, the committee acknowledged the devastating impact on the maize, lack of adequate support and intervention from both national and county governments, the withdrawal support from development stakeholders in terms of input and sustaining their livelihoods, and the committee also expressed concerns about the potential of this disease in other maize-growing areas in the country. Mr. Speaker, sir, in conclusion, having investigated the matter in accordance with its mandate, the committee made the following resolutions and recommendations. 1, national county governments to allocate sufficient funds to assist farmers affected by this disease in Bomet County. Number 2, the Ministry of Agriculture and Livestock should develop and implement comprehensive strategies for managing and controlling this disease in Bomet County and other affected regions. The Kenya Agricultural Land and Livestock Research Organization, KALRO, should expedite research on the disease and get maize that are varieties and resistant to the disease to farmers in the affected region of Bomet. The Kenya Plant Health Inspectorate Service, KEFIS, to enhance surveillance and monitoring of the disease and promote the adoption by farmers in the county. The Pest Control and Products Board should ensure the availability of effective and safe pest control products in managing the disease. The national and county government should provide farmers with training and service, extension services, alternative crop varieties, and finally, the Senate Standing Committee on Agriculture and Livestock and Fisheries should conduct regular monitoring and evaluation of the implementation of these recommendations. Mr. Speaker, sir, the catastrophic maize disease in Bomet poses a significant threat to food security and livelihoods in farmers in this region. The committee's recommendations provide a roadmap to addressing the crisis and ensuring a sustainable future for maize production in Bomet County and beyond. The positive development in Kenya Seed Company. The positive development is that Kenya Seed Company has developed a maize variety that is resistant to maize lethal necrosis disease. I beg to move. I want to introduce request Honorable Cheregai to second.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Sir, I want to congratulate the newly vibrant Senator, Chairperson of Agriculture, Senator, the chairperson of Agriculture, Livestock and Fisheries, Senator of Bungoma, Senator Wakoli. I would have expected him, Mr. Speaker, to move it in Kiswahili, because, but to congratulate him for being elected the chair of Agriculture. And I can see he's beginning with a lot of new energy. In Tanzania, they normally say nguvu mpya, ama nguvu kazi, if your indulgence allows me, Mr. Speaker. And congratulate the Agriculture Committee. Mr. Speaker, the issue of maize and diseases continue to give us challenge. Mr. Speaker, the seeds mostly, even us who are maize farmers from the region I come from, and I know maize is grown across the country, all the counties and even our borders. Sometimes the challenge emanates from the seeds, where the Kenya seed, which propagate the seed, sometimes are not very keen to prevent some of these challenges, and more so in Bomet, Mr. Speaker, where the Kenya seed should come up with the process of ensuring that they bring seeds based on the climatic condition, the soil or the soil type of the area, the climatic condition, Mr. Speaker, so that the maize seeds and variety that Kenya seeds develop for Narok is not the same for Nandi, is not the same for Bomet or any other, Mr. Speaker. And therefore, I'm happy that Kenya seed has developed maize lethal necrosis in fight against maize lethal necrosis disease. Even as we say thank Kenya seed for developing a seed resistant, Mr. Speaker, we want to challenge the Minister of Agriculture and even the Bomet County government to compensate farmers. I think this issue of contract farming, compensation of livestock insurance in northern Kenya, we should also extend to farming, especially of maize, Mr. Speaker, even so that we can do compensation. Mr. Speaker, I saw these clashes between Kisii and Narok counties, Mr. Speaker, over border clashes. I have seen a number of acres of sugarcane that has been burned down. Mr. Speaker, we must normalize the compensation. Being a farmer, Mr. Speaker, is very hard in this country. For me, I'm a small-time farmer, and I can tell you the money that you put in farming is not equal to the money you get after harvesting, Mr. Speaker. It is one of the hardest things to do in this country. And that is why the average age of a farmer is 50 years, Mr. Speaker. It means that the farming is never attractive enough to attract young, vibrant people to go into farming, because we need to focus farming into creating agribusiness, Mr. Speaker. Say that the input should be less than the output, Mr. Speaker, so that we can encourage young people. I know, Mr. Speaker, most of the young people, even the guests, your guests that are seated, a number of them are still young, that are there in public gallery, Mr. Speaker. Most of them, your guests today in gallery, are young people. How do we make agriculture attractive, Mr. Speaker? And therefore, I want to challenge, let us make agriculture attractive by introducing both incentives and safeguards. If maize in Bomet, the county government of Bomet through Agriculture Department and then Kenya Seed and the Ministry of Agriculture must compensate farmers of Bomet who are affected by maize lethal necrosis disease. That is one of the safeguards. We have said with the drought that is happening in northern Kenya and across the country through National Drought Management Authority, they should ensure that the livestock insurance, both in Kajiado and other counties, including Samburu, Mr. Speaker, that are being affected by this drought, they must be compensated. And that is how we make agriculture attractive, Mr. Speaker. I had some people, Mr. Speaker, in some function, the graduation in Kaiboi, in my county, telling youth, now you have graduated, go and create employment. I asked myself, as we could not even employ ourselves, we went to the people to get employment. How can we tell young people to get employment, to create employment, if as we went to the people to get employment? The only way to create and channel the energy of young people, including the Gen Z, is making agriculture attractive. Secondly, Mr. Speaker, because I have 3 points, is the issue of contract farming. And I'm happy the government has registered more than 4 million farmers in Kenya. And I want to thank the President, His Excellency Dr. William Ruto, because as we talk, Mr. Speaker, you know, from 15 this month, as farmers of maize, we plant because we expect rain season. I'm happy that the subsidized fertilizer is now in our stores. We are now buying it at 2,500, Mr. Speaker, to use for maize. And I know it applies to all farmers. For example, Mr. Speaker, the only challenge, and I want to challenge counties. For example, in Nandi, Mr. Speaker, we have one in Celia, National Cereals and Produce Board. It is in Masab sub-county. We have one in Chesumei, in Mosoria Township, which is my doorstep, and we have one in Lesos NCPB. But the rest of Nandi, the lower Nandi, the northern towards Kericho, and towards Kakamega, towards Vihiga, Mr. Speaker, they don't have access to NCPB. I want to challenge Minister of Agriculture. You know, Mr. Speaker, my county, under Sang maladministration, Governor Sang maladministration, is an autopilot because he's not seeking for any other term. I would request, Mr. Speaker, that the Ministry of Agriculture assist us with last mile distribution of fertilizer. You find a farmer from, we have one in Maraba, you find a farmer all the way from Bogovel or Mombwa, the border of Kericho and Nandi. They have to come all the way to Maraba, Mr. Speaker, which is around 40 minutes to 50 minutes, all the way to come and bring Mbolea. They are using border, they are using Probox. I want to propose and ask the President from this floor of the House, with a lot of humility, to direct the Ministry of Agriculture to do last mile distribution of fertilizer to farmers, even in Wazingishu. Because my farmers in Nandi, you can imagine, Mr. Speaker, a farmer has to come all the way from Tabolo or Kamungei, where I was over the weekend after we interred our beloved colleague on Sunday, Mr. Speaker, after we left Baringo. They have to travel all the way to Celia, and there is poor, pathetic of-road network, Mr. Speaker. If there was a county, and I want to appeal to other governors, because my governor has left everything under autopilot, he is busy with bad governance. I want to appeal to other governors. Can we do last mile distribution of fertilizer to the farmers? Mr. Speaker, I want to thank, in seconding this motion on the issue of Bomet, I want to Kenya Seed, Mr. Speaker, they had brought prices. For example, 2 kilos of maize seed, they were selling at 700 shillings. I'm happy the directive of Ministry of Agriculture, through the guidance of the President, we are now buying 2 kilos of maize seeds at 420 shillings to between 400 and 420 shillings, which will allow farmers, Mr. Speaker, to plant during this planting season. But I want to appeal to Kenya Seed. If they know March, the beginning of rains, Mr. Speaker, if they know that we are expecting, Mr. Speaker, rains, they should prepare themselves and propagate enough seeds to allow us, Mr. Speaker, to plant in time. Because, Mr. Speaker, what is happening, the reason, Mr. Speaker, the reason there was expensive seeds, Mr. Speaker, is because Kenya Seed was not propagating enough seeds. And I'm saying the way we were discussing about the issue of electricity. If Kenya Seed does not have the capacity and ability to produce enough seeds for propagation, either maize seeds, either beans, either any type of seed, then we liberalize the progression of seeds, Mr. Speaker, but not only by Kenya Seed, but we can open up. The reason Kenya Power can take years to even to respond challenges that are there across the country, or even Mandera or anywhere across the country, is because they are monopoly. But if today we have to open Kenya Power, open Kenya Seed, you will allow more sector players, there will be fair competition in the market, and therefore I want to appeal to Kenya Seed, even as they have made the prices affordable for farmers, they should ensure, Mr. Speaker, that the seeds that are in the market are of good quality, so that we don't have maize little disease that can affect our farmers, Mr. Speaker. And therefore I want to challenge Kenya Seed, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, the third point I wanted to make is I'm bringing an amendment, a legislative intervention. Mr. Speaker, when you look at all the cereals, and I'm happy the government is mopping 32,000, is it bags of wheat in Narok? And the government is mopping more than 32,000 or 34,000 bags of wheat in Narok, Mr. Speaker. Why is it that wheat, maybe, Mr. Speaker, maybe you'll inform me later. Mr. Speaker, why is it that wheat is 50 kilos, beans 50 kilos, potatoes 50 kilos, I'm told in Nyandarua, Mr. Speaker, Ndengu is 50 kilos. And I heard somebody was being referred to Ndengu farmer and he felt very bad. If I'm referred as a cattle farmer, I don't have a problem. I don't know why people have a problem of being called Ndengu farmer. If you call me Mufugaji, I don't have a problem, Mr. Speaker. So, Mr. Speaker, if all these are 50 kilos, why is it that it's only maize that is 90 kilos? And I hope the consumers of ugali, like Senator Moses Kajwang, can be fair to us, Mr. Speaker, through you. Because, no, Mr. Speaker, Senator Kajwang cannot lie that he's eating spaghetti, but from his physique, he is the beneficiary of ugali, Mr. Speaker. He cannot lie. He must have maize. So, Mr. Speaker, why is it 50 kilos for all cereals? But when it comes to maize, it is only 90 kilos. And we want to amend. And I am aware Narok plans a lot of maize. I am bringing an amendment. All cereals be 50 kilos. Why is it that it's 50 kilos on other cereals, but when it comes to maize, it's 90 kilos, and we are not getting a good price of 3,500, Mr. Speaker? Yet, Mr. Speaker, when you farm in Narok the way I'm farming, you must lease the farm. You must get a tractor, Mr. Speaker, which is expensive in terms of fuel. You must dry to avoid aflatoxins. You must go to National Cereals and Produce Board, Mr. Speaker. When you come and sit about the maize, Mr. Speaker, you don't get value. And that is why when you go to farmers in Kericho, Nandi, Trans Nzoia, Kakamega, and Wazingishu, Mr. Speaker, and even Meru, I know you just plan for consumption only. But when you come to the market, it does not give value, Mr. Speaker. What we are saying, and I agree with the petition as I second, Mr. Speaker, that Kenya Seed has an honors, Mr. Speaker, has and in legal terms, they have a duty of care. Senior Counsel Senator Mungatana will tell you this, Mr. Speaker. They owe a duty of care that when they are propagating seeds, they must propagate seeds of high quality so that we don't come up with maize-lethal disease that will undermine and threaten the life of a farmer, Mr. Speaker. I can tell you today, as we go to farming in North Rift, most farmers cannot farm because there is no resources to go to the farm, Mr. Speaker. And even here in Narok, Mr. Speaker, it is the biggest challenge that we must rise up against at the occasion, Mr. Speaker. So, Mr. Speaker, in conclusion, let us support all farmers from wheat, from maize, from tea, so that we can ensure there is food security. And I'm happy, under the subsidy program of the President, the affordable seeds, Mr. Speaker, the sufurias that were on the many people's heads in 2022-23 have come down, and they are now being used to cook ugali in most of our homes. And nowadays, even looking at the smile that Senator Kajwang has been smiling for the last 2 years, is because of the good quality of maize that whenever he goes to Kishagi and ensures, Mr. Speaker, and I want to advise my chair and Senate Majority Leader, because I normally see him playing football, that don't eat sifted maize. Go and get the real maize, go to the normal posho mill, and eat the ugali of posho mill. This issue of eating shifted maize by these other companies might not give you the necessary energy to play football and play football at night, Mr. Speaker. So, and also our cows, Mr. Speaker. So, Mr. Speaker, with those very many remarks, I beg to second this motion and agree with the findings of the committee. I thank you, Mr. Speaker. The issue of maize disease in Bungoma, in Bomet.
Honorable Senators, I propose the question that the Senate adopts the report of the Standing Committee on Agriculture, Livestock and Fisheries on a petition to the Senate regarding the catastrophic maize diseases that farmers in Bomet County have endured for the last 12 years, laid on the table of the Senate on Thursday, 5th December 2024. I can see a few senators want to contribute to this motion. All the members here are not on my screen. Senator Alon Cheriot, Majority Leader.
Yeah, Mr. Speaker, I don't know. Okay.
Just 1 minute, kindly. Before I give the floor to the members, honorable senators, I would like to acknowledge the presence in the public gallery this afternoon, visiting teachers and students from PCEA Gong Hill Secondary School, Kajiado North constituency in Kajiado County. The delegation comprises 2 teachers and 48 students who are in the Senate for a one-day academic exposition. Honorable Senators, in our usual tradition of receiving and welcoming visitors to Parliament, I extend a warm welcome to them, and on behalf of the Senate, and on my own behalf, wish them a fruitful visit. Senator Seki, under 1 minute.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. I also take this opportunity to join you to thank the school from Ngong, PCA Ngong Hills, for finding time to be with us today. I know this is a school that I know. I understand the performance of the school, and Ngong town has been a long historical town in our county and in the entire nation. And we really thank you for finding time to be with us this afternoon. Senate is a renowned parliament, which is a higher parliament. It's a parliament that legislates issues of education in national and counties. And I know you learn much more as you continue to have this great time with us. Otherwise, you're most welcome. The teachers, the students, and I know we'll have more interaction outside there. I'll come and greet you. Na kupiga picha kidogo. Otherwise, thank you very much and God bless you.
Okay, thank you. Majority Rina.
Line there. For a long time, Mr. Speaker, how can he be called to reply before we have debated?
He's not replying, but
I thought you moved majority.
Okay. You know, Senator Mungatana arrived from South Africa. I guess that's a problem. I suspect he didn't get enough sleep while there. Mr. Speaker, I rise to support this report in reply to a petition by Mr. I really want to read his name, then I'll say why, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Kerich Kiprono Hillary, a resident of Bomet County. I don't know exactly where in Bomet. But, Mr. Speaker, as a House, we must continue to show appreciation to citizens who believe in the power of this House to resolve issues that affect them. And when a citizen petitions this House to consider a matter that they find to be grave, we must always remember that they are exercising a constitutional power that citizens of this country enjoy, the right to petition public institutions, one of which is the Senate of the Republic of Kenya. Mr. Speaker, I must confess from the onset that I'm not a very big fan of maize farming. I find maize farming to be one of the activities, economic activities, that has impoverished my own people. In fact, when I speak in public, I encourage them to diversify, grow sufficient maize for their own food, because you can never separate Kenyans with ugali, but also divest and grow other crops that are high income generating, Mr. Speaker. But because they are Kenyans, Mr. Speaker, who draw their livelihood from this trade, I will be measured in my comments. I have said this many times, Mr. Speaker, that you know, these people who roam around the streets of Nairobi, Nakuru, Kisumu, Mombasa, demanding that the price of unga must go down, Mr. Speaker, that they must also be taken back to the farms to understand the challenges that maize farmers go through. You know, by the time farmers are petitioning the Senate because of the prevalence of a disease such as this, then there are fellows here seated, you know, these online keyboard warriors that are so many in Kenya, making noise, oh, the price of unga must come down, without realizing that for the price of unga to go down, there is a farmer who woke up very early in the morning, plowed their farm, prepared it, Mr. Speaker, and I believe in other parts of the country. And the committee is leading this House to recommend to county governments on the things that they need to do, as well as national government, Mr. Speaker. Many times, on the floor of this House, we've had people speak and say, oh,